Call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
President Warner.
Here.
Secretary Treasurer Horowitz.
Here.
Trustee Pell is absent. Trustee Stafford.
Here.
Trustee Welker, I assume, is on her way.
Should be late.
Yes, you
Okay.
should be here about.
We have a quorum present this afternoon, sir.
All right, thank you very much. The first order of discussion is August Sanctuary and with Kim Barber at Cornell Cooperative Extension. She cannot make today's meeting, so we're going to put that off. There's also a discussion with Trustee Welker and with Sag Pond Aquatic Restoration Project, Janice Scher, Principal Planner, and John Halsey, President of the Peconic Land Trust. I see John is here. Do you know if Janice is going to be attending the meeting? Should we ask her to come up?
Yeah, she did this morning say she would.
James is calling her now.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're on it, so.
Hey, can you transfer me to Janice here?
Do you want to discuss the
Or
fish
just
trap
her extension?
applications? Oh, you already did that?
Well,
No, we got to do it officially, right?
yes, the third one is the fish trap application for Kenneth Mades. He's applied for 3
Yes.
fish traps by Tyna Beach. They're clearly outside of the Tyna Beach sanctuary that we're going to be working with Cornell. I had Jessica pull it up. They do not interfere with the sanctuary. They're outside of it, so there's going to be no issues with the nets being placed there.
Okay.
The nets are going to be only temporarily there, and we still have to work on the finalization of the sanctuary with Cornell and the agreement.
Are we going to need Jessica to come up to discuss that?
No, I think we just discussed that.
I worked with her yesterday.
Okay.
I had her give everybody copies of what I found.
Okay.
The nets are completely outside of the sanctuary, so there'll be no conflict.
Okay, so that's good.
So are we're going to do that after the discussion?
Yes,
or- okay.
yeah, we're going to have Mr. Halsey and Janice come up and give us a presentation about the Sag Pond Aquatic Restoration Project.
Hello.
Hey, Janice,
Good
how you doing?
afternoon.
You and John?
Good. For the record, Janice Shearer, Assistant Town Planning Director in Long Range Planning.
And John Halsey, President of the Peconic.
Thank you.
Hi, Ann. So I ran up here without my paper. I apologize, but we just wanted to talk about the application the trustees made to the water quality program and how that relates to the bigger picture.
Well, from what I understand, talking to Ann yesterday and the other day, there are 2 separate parts of this. There's the trustees' application for the water quality for the different projects that are going to go on potentially, and the funding for them, correct? And then there's also Professor Gobler and Stony Brook have reached out through, I believe, the Peconic Land Trust to some of the homeowners to do some continuation or
I think
sistering
that's
up.
really where it started, if it's my correct understanding.
Okay, we'll let you guys have the floor then.
Probably a better idea.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you want to talk about the effort first?
Yeah. Well, essentially, after the closure of Sag Pond last year, that really piqued the interest of neighbors for obvious reasons. And Professor Gobler had proposed doing a monitoring program there, 4 years in length. He had, offered to do this with as much support from the public and the folks that live around Sag Pond. Since the trust has done a lot of work around there in land protection, own a preserve right to the southeast of Sag Bridge, very much interested ourselves as an organization in facilitating this process. So we reached out to all of our donors, and the goal was to raise $224,000 to cover 2 years of monitoring and research. And about 3 weeks ago, we reached that goal.
That's great.
So, really, we're here to be private partners with the trustees and your efforts as well. And I know that part of what you applied for was also monitoring and other things as well. I think that what you receive ultimately from the town in that regard is going to actually help us extend this monitoring work. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of our efforts. I think it's really important for us to communicate with you what we're trying to do and to be in sync with you. So
Be more successful that way.
that's right.
That's what we want to be.
That's right. Exactly.
So as far as, opening and closing the inlet, as you know, to apply for the water quality funds, it was similar to Mecox in that, in and of itself, opening and closing an inlet isn't really a water quality project under the law. So it was really part of an aquatic restoration plan that you applied to the fund as part of. So it was quite auspicious that this was happening at the same time that you were looking to get some water quality funding to help open and close the cut, and that they were about to embark, based on all this generosity of these donors, about to embark on this research program. So the natural thing was to kind of try to align both efforts together, which I think has happened. What took place then was that the town water quality committee looked at it and said, well, you really need to formulate a management plan, which you have intend to do, which is similar to Mecox. So you have more protocols written down on paper that everyone understands and can go with, and come up with an action plan. Part of Dr. Gobler's study, from what I've read, has to do with, really drilling down on where these inputs are coming from and understanding why these harmful algal blooms are happening and how to alleviate this condition. And maybe it's more openings, maybe it's a combination of things. Probably there's no silver bullet, we all know that. So just to finish before you ask, but the town water quality committee and the town board is about to award you and this money to, through Chris and his program, 2 years of funding, so $56,000 per year toward his effort, which still would require some more fundraising. So you basically got 3 years, from the donors and then the town, so you're kind of lacking 1 year in the end, and they might have to make up that difference. But you'll have the money for the openings and
For 2
closings for 2 years.
And
Money for an ecological study to take that data, and whether that's Dr. Goebel or someone else to take that data and understand the actions you can take in partnership with the town. There's stuff on the land use side that has to happen. Maybe Sagaponic Village needs to get involved too, with the
Definitely.
land use side.
Definitely.
And then, what can you do in terms of that water body?
And the trust as well.
Well,
We want to be a partner in this effort.
I think it's important that we all work together. I mean, my view of this and all the time that I've spent working, on this board for Mecox and for the Sagaponic Pond, it's kind of like, somebody's having a medical event, a heart attack or something, and we get there with the ambulance, and then we rush them to the hospital, we keep them alive, keep them on life support, and then the folks at the hospital then figure out what it is that this patient needs so that we can make them better. The trustees are trying to keep those waterways alive, whether it's Mecox or Sagaponic, through these flushings, while the experts are working on all the upland influences that are going to go on. And, we keep it going
Yep.
while we're fixing the upland problems to really get a thriving ecosystem. And that really only becomes successful, in my view, with everybody around the table working together, understanding what's going on here. But the better information that we get, the more we write down and we have locked down in our Blue Book regulations through these plans, so that there's rhyme and reason of why we need to do this flushing, how important it is to the ecosystem and everything around it. I think this is great. I applaud you, and I'm glad that we're finally all working together. We'll be successful this way.
No, it's great.
Thank you.
This has been Bruce Stafford's area, so I'd like to hear from him, because this is, you've been
No,
hands-on.
I think it's great. I went to the meeting with John and my
Wherever
trustee
she is.
here, and I'm all for it, I'm down there quite a lot, as much as I can be. I'm down there for all the openings and closes. And, I hear from quite a few neighbors between Mecox and Sag, you walk in their backyard and you walk in mud, and everybody's, you know, it's in the backyard, so you know it's in the water. So anything we can do to make that body or those bodies better, I'm all for it. And I personally, you know, Ann's been doing it, it's my area, I don't care, as long as it gets done. You know, there's 5 of us here, and luckily we jump in behind each other.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a mechanical closing down there, have we?
Where, at SAG?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I've never in my time on the
How
board.
long is it usually is typically?
It usually flows for about 3 or 4 days, it does more draining than
Flushing.
flushing. But this year, it's done quite a bit of flushing. So the blue-green algae that was persistent for the last 3 or 4 years hasn't been there.
It hasn't appeared yet this year.
And I could say 6 years ago, we never heard of, or 6 or 7 years ago, on this board, we didn't hear much about blue-green algae other than Mill Pond and Lake Agawam. And each one of these ponds, the coastal ponds, have seemed to got a little bit more and more blue-green algae. But this year, we've been lucky, you know, keeping it, probably the salinity and the more frequent openings is what keeps the blue-green algae at bay.
We just opened it to drain SAG, and I would have liked it to stay open a day or 2 more, but it just didn't do it. And, you know, we can wait until the fall and we can pop it again so it gets a better flush. Because right now, there's so many things you gotta take into consideration, the lifeguards, the fences, the people, and it goes on and
That's all
on.
that goes into your management plan that
Correct,
we'll produce. So
correct.
that's-
But, you know, everything's great on paper until you do it.
Well, right, and that's what a part of it is too. Like, you know,
And-
you've got to be able to make your judgment calls when you need to make them. But
But,
I
I
think
mean-
if the more rationale goes in it and the monitoring and all that is, you know, you've got these telemetry buoys and whatever in there, you'll be able to make a much more educated choice.
And I think that with everybody jumping in here from the financial end of it, I mean, it takes money to do these things, obviously. The trustees' budgetary side, it's not sustainable to take care of all the responsibilities that the trustees have placed on them, defense of public access with lawsuits and, you know, infrastructure, docks and ramps that are falling apart that we're trying to maintain for people. So I think when you have the opportunity to have this synergy, I think it's win-win for everybody.
Well, one of the things that we have dealt with is, through the persistent low salinity, is the Phragmites removal projects that we've done with some of the homeowners down there. If the salinity if we can maintain a slightly higher salinity, the Phragmites will be pushed back naturally. As the salinity gets lower and lower, will eventually just take over the pond.
Well, I don't know if I believe that, because the Phragmites are amazing at their root systems finding fresh water. So it's not just that, although, you know, you don't want to change an entire ecosystem just to eradicate Phragmites. You know, you want to still have that freshwater, you know,
Well, definitely.
lake there. But I think, you know, really, I don't, you know, a lot of you guys would probably know better than me, but I do have some amount of background in this stuff, and when it comes to Phragmites, it really has to do with the elevation of the, you know, and whether or not you're gonna get Spartina, it has to do with those elevations of the sediments, and, but those Phragmites, even when they're faced with salinity, will find that fresh water, and
Well, I do know
Stay there.
we've done a couple of projects with Bruce down there, and after 3 years, you remove it, 3 or 4 years, and then eventually you revegetate with the natural,
Yeah.
you know, species, and it will take over.
Oh, that's
as long as
good.
the salinity is proper. So I think it's a great project, and I think it's a great public-private enterprise together, working together, so.
I just got one other question, being that the security, when we open it, there's always a problem. There's not enough bay constables to go around. There's not enough maintenance guys to go around. And when you open that cut, and it might not be the best looking water that's coming out of there for the first little while, and there's always a problem between no lifeguards or no bay constables or no maintenance staff to stay down there and monitor this. When that pond, I've seen both of them flow out, and the white caps coming out there, it's like a magnet. You can put up all the fences, all the signs, and stand there till the cows come home, and nobody wants to listen to you. So I don't know if it'd be worthwhile, maybe, thinking about getting a private security outfit down there to sit there and let them babysit that, or not.
So that's such a good point, and I was just having this conversation about Lake Agawam. Actually, it's similar. There's a pipe there, and that pipe is open to the ocean at times, and there hasn't been, until this point, what the term was a universal notification system about when our water bodies that are perhaps impacted are opened into another water body. We haven't really had to deal with it until the last decade or so, but it's starting to become something that we have to figure that out. Because do we call the lifeguards? Do we call Parks and Rec? Do we station somebody
I
there?
send-
What's the best way?
I send
So-
out an email to everybody, let everybody know what they do with that information is a great thing, but, being down there as much as I am, you definitely need somebody to stand by one side, if not two, and it's gotta be the thought process. I can tell people don't go over that fence, and I'm in plain clothes. Now, Bay Constable, if they're available, but, you're looking, the lifeguard's down there for a few hours, and, the first 2 days are the major days when the water's really flowing, otherwise, have at it, And you got a fence up, you got signs up, there's no more string. We try to do the best we can for the people. It seems like sometimes whatever we do, they just don't listen.
But you know what, if you're talking about a public safety issue, I think we need to pull the chief of police in, because, we really should consult with him and tell him what our concerns are and what our issues are, and ask him, Chief, how best do you think that we could handle this public safety issue relative to, and whether maybe he wants to send whatever
I
type
think
of
this
officer
is-
he wants, or he wants to handle the Bay Constable if he wants to, but I think we,
At the time, you're just talking about when you're
Once we
actually,
pop it,
when you open it.
And depending on how much
Water's
water's in
flowing
there,
out, yeah.
I mean, it's just like the ocean coming out
It's
in
like
the
a
ocean.
water
So
park
people
for
are
people.
playing
right, so
on it.
you're talking about a
It
public
used to be
safety issue.
fine.
Consult with the chief and see what his
It's not
feelings
fine
are on personnel, or,
I think this is something that probably needs to go into
Internal.
the management plan.
It's part of it, yeah. I think
Right,
so.
is-
That's the whole
It's
idea.
part of it, but when you
Because you're
talk-
managing a recreational resource in addition to an ecological
that's
ecosystem
true,
system.
but I think
One's
you need
right
to
next to
consult.
the other, that's the problem. If there was
Yeah.
no town beaches within 10 miles, we would never have this problem.
You need to consult with the chief if it's a public
Yes.
safety issue. He's like the chief public safety guy in
Yes.
Of course.
town, and I think we're gonna have to consult with him on this.
You should.
Ask him.
But, that's also part of your management plan in consultation with all
Right.
stakeholders. And you would identify who your stakeholders are and, you don't want to make it so that people can't access the resource, but you also want to make it safe so no one drowns, when you need to
Exactly.
do what you have to do, so.
Or
yes.
gets ill.
Call the
Or get
chief, I'll
sick
have to talk with
yeah.
him, what he thinks we could do to make sure.
So we're happy to recommend that the town support, 2 years of this research effort to offset the donors that have funded this, and also the inlet opening and closing for 2 years, and then the money to actually produce this management plan. So you've got this nice package that will be gifted to you by the water quality and town CPF, should you want that, and if you're amenable to that, then the town will put a resolution on.
That sounds good.
And then as far as the management plan, it would be up to us to put that together.
Yeah, you'll procure it the way you normally do.
Yep.
The money will be, you'll just have a line item about that, but I think you should work with, you can work with us in land management, so you get a good scope of services if you want, and you can talk to Marty, or, Jamie obviously is,
Yeah.
and put together so you get what you really need.
Yep. What the
we're
town,
happy
what
to
the people
work with
need.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's great.
I just had a couple quick things. I'm not sure if it was you, Ed, or you, Scott, but talking with Sagaponack Village, I think they're a stakeholder here as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely.
So that
They
maybe
absolutely-
we need to go to a meeting and just sort of
We absolutely,
express
yeah. And I,
what we have going on.
Well, I'd like to have them come into one of
they
our
should, and
meetings.
Or
Why don't
that.
they come into one of our meetings and sit here? We have all the resources. We can bring Janice, and if John wants to attend, and if Marty or whoever else need be here, we can just pull all the resources and answer their questions pretty much right on the spot.
And I do recall
think
having
that's-
conversations and receiving letters from, I believe, the deputy mayor
Yes.
being in support of having a nice plan for Sagaponack. I do recall there was an interest in that verbally and.
Okay, we can do that then.
Yep.
That's a good thing.
That's a good way to do it.
And let's see, what else did I want to say? This year, just in terms of, we've been lucky because we have not yet had, according to New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, harmful algal blooms notifications page, which is such a mouthful, but there has not been an harmful algal bloom yet in Sagaponack Pond. I hate to say yet, but, so that's a good thing, as was mentioned before. There have been high bacteria levels in there, Enterococcus bacteria levels, but hopefully with the opening of the cut, there was some flushing last week. Do we need to do a resolution about this?
Did you do a resolution when you applied?
I don't think we did a resolution when we applied.
This is
I don't recall, we just
first
came.
That's kind of your own policy if you want to do that by resolution. Like, so with Mill Pond, you gave Mill Pond Association some
Yes.
kind of like resolution that
yes.
supported the project, but it wasn't
Proper move.
your application.
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
In this case, this is your application where the trustees will get, will manage
Designated.
that
Right.
fund.
I think
could
a
do it.
resolution clearly stating how we're going to get CPF 20 for 2 years, working with the Peconic Land Trust for the next couple of years, and how, lay it all out for the people of the town to see what is going on there. I think that would be a good,
I can work with Lisa on getting that.
That'd be
language.
great.
that would be a good
Thank you
public
so
document.
much.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that way you have it in the record, and we have it too, so we can.
Because we did.
Because it hasn't been awarded yet, we can do it, after when your next meeting, you can do that resolution, and then we can do
Right.
Okay.
the award.
You mentioned it.
Yeah, you
I just
probably
came to you,
should.
we came to you,
Yeah, that's
because
fine.
we were like, we got an idea, this would be good. and
Well,
we
You
morphed
submitted
into
it, and you all
right.
knew about it, but you
Right,
didn't do it by
right, right.
resolution.
We didn't know
The
what was going on.
resolution would be affirming a commitment that we have with
Yes,
doing this
with the
project.
town, yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
in the
also
town.
our first,
It's your first, other than MECOX, but you already were well on your way with that
Right.
management
Yes.
plan, so you've already kind of were down the road there, so,
Yeah,
so
right.
this is really the first, like, from the onset, and you're joining forces here with,
Great.
Right.
with, PLT and Somas and Chris and
Right.
all these,
Right. Yeah.
private
Residents.
homeowners that are so generous, so
right.
it'll all work
It's
out.
fantastic.
Big project.
Just, I think this is more part of the management plan, but just in discussing this with Bill Pell, he mentioned the possibility of a survey being done of the water body, just to see where property lines and phragmites might be. So as part of the management plan, that could be, that was his suggestion.
And
So that's
also
down the
the
road.
elevation of the beach and the width of the opening and everything should be all, it should be all laid out very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do the openings that, specifically in the same area, has the least amount of impact on the side beach, the two side properties.
The other thing that would be helpful probably is to start compiling your old records or things that you have historically done, so that someone who's looking at this could understand, like, piece it
James has-
together.
A
Yeah,
whole pile of data out of SAG, right?
great. So, but I mean, whoever you choose to do this,
Can give it to them.
Yeah.
that would be a good background information.
That was going to kind of be my next question was, what are our next steps?
So you're gonna do your resolution.
Yep.
The town is going to award, you the grant.
Yep.
And then you will have, what we would like to do from my end, what happens is, we, typically, the town contracts with the entity, but now that it's you as trustees, you are going to expect something out of this research program with Dr. Gobler. So you need to just have that agreement worked out in terms of what are these deliverables that you'll sign off on and pay him for producing. So he has a list of tasks and deliverables. And so, just so that it's more routine and you can understand what you're getting and what you have to sign off on, and we'll be happy to sit down, at least I, can sit with you and Dr. Gobler to discuss that. So you would have an
Timeline.
agreement with him as far as what the expectation is going forward for this data, and make sure it's not proprietary, you're going to get it, it's going to be given to you in this format, you're getting, under each task, are you getting a spreadsheet, is it a map, what are you actually getting out of it? And so that you can then take and put into your management plan.
Do we do that in conjunction with?
I think some coordination
Right.
makes sense.
So that there's shared data?
Because it's an applied science. He's doing the science, we're going to apply it to the
You're going to
management.
apply the science, exactly.
But just so it's shared and.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I think the next step, after you do your resolution and the town does award, is whoever is, wants to sit down with myself and John and Chris and just nail down exactly what you're
Yep.
getting for this, and then when you do the openings, that's already part of the, you're already
Right, we
just,
got
you're
that.
just drawing down off that. That'll
Yep.
just be for Sag Pond, similar to MECOX. There's
Okay.
no difference there. And then you'll procure your habitat, your management plan,
Yep, right.
when you feel maybe a year into this data, so you have the second year coming,
Yeah, he's installed the
the
buoy in there
time.
already.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
so-
want some time to pass so you can get some information.
Okay.
But, it's like from 6 months from now, you would decide on who you're gonna use, and then
Yeah, put it together as a
start putting it
package.
together.
Yeah.
So the Water Quality Committee did recommend that you give some interim reporting as a condition of this grant.
What does
So
that
would-
mean?
Meaning that you're going to then provide the town board with updates,
By
in
how
like
often?
some,
Quarterly?
yeah, something like
Okay.
that. You'll give us some kind of
How many
update on what's
times we
going
open
on.
it, how long it flushed for, the salinity at the start, the salinity at the close.
Or just, and we're working on, we've procured this, we've gotten this from Dr.
Yeah.
Gobler, just
Just an
updates.
update.
Regular
Okay.
updates, and go
Okay.
to communications in the town board and to the
Okay.
committee.
Yep,
Okay.
sounds good.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
John.
much
Sure.
to
Thank
both
you, John.
of you.
John,
Really
I
appreciate
got one
it.
question.
Sure.
Down at the bridge, where you got the signs, this is Peconic Land Trust.
Right.
Who owns the patch between the Phragmites and the road? Is that the town?
I think the town owns that.
Thank you.
That, where there's sort of like a.
Ramp.
Yeah, I believe that's town owned.
Okay, thank you.
I thought it was owned by you guys, but maybe not.
We own stuff all over the place. We have to do
I-
research on
As
it.
far as I got it, town owned.
Okay.
That's what I understood many years ago. Then there's been
Yep.
a conflict.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having us.
We appreciate your time.
Bye.
Janice, are you downstairs?
Yes. And that was another one. Your pump
Pump out program.
Yes, that's a wonderful program. We shouldn't change a thing on it.
Yeah.
You want to have Jessica come up and?
do you want her to come up?
Yeah.
Okay. James,
I think she's 1854.
Now, if that's a town ramp, would they need a permit to use it?
A town launching ramp, yeah, it should be, yes. Considered a launching ramp, it's the only one in the pond.
Right, that's true.
I mean, hasn't the town maintained it and the trustees maintained it
We have.
for many years?
Yeah, but I haven't let the guys go back down there because somebody else said they owned it.
I don't,
They don't, town.
yeah. So we'll maintain it like other facilities for the public to use.
But they're having many complaints about people blocking it now with kayaks.
It should be a launching ramp, it should not be a parking area.
Right.
You know, if there's no parking there, you're gonna have to park somewhere else. Launch your, vessel and then leave the area with your car.
Do a permit while we're waiting.
Sure. I have 2 renewals. D&G Realty, D&G LLC, 369 Beach Road. This is the old Hell's Marina.
I'm sorry, Ed, which one are you on?
We're on the DGC.
Oh, you're not going to do Malkinson?
Not
Do the
really.
renewals first.
Gotta wait till he.
Yeah. let's do
Okay.
renewal.
Do the renewals first.
Then we'll talk about.
Anything change?
Nothing has changed. We went through this over several meetings. I think it's a good project, so I'd like to move it forward.
Move it forward if it's a renewal and
It's
if
just a
nothing's
renewal.
changed. It should
So,
move forward.
Yes.
Let them renew it.
You good with that?
Yep.
So advance it.
And then the next one I have is Philip and Linda Simotis, first renewal, 148 Meadow Lane with N Consultants. It's the same as the previous one. It's the first renewal, so I'd like to move that forward also.
No changes.
No changes.
And it
It's
should advance and be renewed.
That's
same.
Bayside, or is it a walkway over the dunes?
It's the bay side, it's the Dug Canals west of Road D.
Okay.
No changes, so
No changes.
advance it. I have Joseph Nicoletti, 52 East Diana Road. Recreational dock facility, 4x82 open grade catwalk, proposed leading to a 3x15 seasonal ramp and a 6x20 seasonal float. Chalked 18 inches above grade, catwalk is proposed to be 4 foot over grade. 2 8-inch diameter piles is proposed to support the float. And 18 8-inch diameter piles are proposed to support the catwalk. Access stairs are proposed at the landward end of the catwalk, and all construction materials will be non-treated lumber. Seasonal float and ramp must be stored upland and out of the wetland vegetation. This meets all Blue Book regulations. Seems to be-
We had asked them to add the ramp and float to be stored upland along the
Seasonal,
wetlands.
yes,
it's
So
seasonal.
That was the last revisions that they made. So it's-
What-
Did we talk about this?
We did.
one other time?
We've been, yeah, we've been boiling this one down. It finally meets the Blue Book
Okay.
regulations, so it's, as per our environmental analyst, as per the Blue Book, it's an approvable permit at this point in time.
I'm going to have Jess come up here and discuss.
We're advancing
I
Nicoletti?
have no problem with it. You?
Yeah, we good on
We
it?
do Leota already?
No, we did not.
Okay.
Fish traps and bike applications.
Yep.
Charles K. Maid's permit number FT 336, 337, and 338 new applications. They're on the south side of Western Shinnecock Bay. We have the Tiana Eelgrass Sanctuary with Cornell Cooperative Extension, which is close in the area, but as everybody on the board can see, the bikes or traps are outside of the area, so I'd like to move forward with approving, or we should move forward with approving them.
All three?
All three?
All three.
Yeah, as long as there's no conflict.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yeah, they sent an email back with this layout, so I
Yep.
think, yeah.
What's
Is that
the
right?
time frame for these? Stay in the water?
They usually set the second week of May, and they're out July 1st.
Do they go back in the fall?
No,
No, okay.
in this area.
Okay.
Other area, Jess.
Thanks, Jess.
We'll prepare the
Problem.
resolution Monday.
That's great.
Tough one, huh?
Thank you, Jessica.
That's great.
Okay.
Thanks, Jess. Good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you, guys.
Just wanted to really make sure we didn't want to have projects conflicting with.
Absolutely.
You know,
Got to do your due diligence.
Correct. That's
And
exactly
you
right.
have some correspondence with Cornell about the eelgrass and where we are
I
going.
do, yes, I do.
Kim isn't here today, so we really should, if you want to just give us a little bit of an overview if you can. or-
Is that the first discussion, Ed?
What?
Is that the first discussion, Eelgrass Sanctuary with Cornell? Because I
Yeah.
came
They're going to come in on
late, so-
Monday?
They're not, she can't make the meeting today, so.
She said maybe Chris Pickrell would come in on the 28th work
Why
session.
don't we, that'd be good.
They said that they had talked to Martha and that they thought that all the Ts were crossed and Is were dotted, so they were just kind of waiting for us, it sounded like. This is kind of new to me. I'm not exactly sure where Martha left off with this.
Well, I don't think any of us are, that's.
So, yeah,
Well,
I'm
they're gonna
trying to
come
get
in.
more information from
Yes.
them.
They come in on the
They kind
28th?
of said that the ball's in our court at this point, that they talked to Martha, they sat down with her, they said that they are pretty much done and all the information was given to
I
us.
think it's best they come in and we have
Yeah,
conversation,
yep,
don't you? I mean,
yep.
since-
And I will contact Martha, and I will, see if Joe can look, see where it is in the files that Martha left us, because she left us a whole bunch of files that we haven't got into.
Nothing about eelgrass as far as I can.
There's no eelgrass sanctuary?
I'll look again.
They said
Okay.
they could come in on, what, the 28th?
So I think Kim said that she couldn't make it today and she's on vacation the 28th, but she was gonna see if Chris could come in.
Okay.
But, so yeah, I guess they're just gonna try and coordinate and then I guess we'll go from there.
I think that
And
makes-
see what Martha says too.
That makes the most
Yes.
sense. Coordinate on them coming in,
Yeah.
discussing it.
They gave a little bit of information in the email, but like I said, I'm not too familiar with the
Yeah, and maybe you can give
situation,
us
so-
an update on the clam project that we're entering in with the Cornell also.
Yeah.
I think
okay.
they should come in.
So we'll get two birds.
There's a letter for you to sign on
I-
it.
it's-
You signed
He
it.
Yes.
signed it, yeah.
Yep,
Martha didn't discuss anything about
Jess, we're
eelgrass
having
with
them
me
come in on
before she
Monday?
left, so-
okay.
So I'll be starting
I
fresh
think the
with you on this.
28th, the next one.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
pile.
Yeah.
It's too short
I'm
time.
gonna email back and forth with them
We'll
to
get
see
to
what
that.
they wanna do. And then we'll see what happens with Martha, what she says.
Okay.
I don't know what this website is anymore.
All right,
They changed it.
Schedule them in.
all right.
Let me do the next one.
Let me, do you have your email on here? Let me
Get
just,
in there, yeah.
let me just email it to you. I'll go down to my computer and I'll email it to you.
All right, thanks,
Thanks,
Jess.
Jess. Good
No
job.
problem.
Jess.
Thanks, guys.
Jessica?
All right, the next one I have is one that we worked on at the last session with Ocean Consulting for Patrick Leota at 10 John Terrace in East Quogue. It was a 4x50 timber elevated walkway with non-treated lumber. We fit over the wetlands connecting to an existing 4x25 walkway, replace the existing elevated 4x25 walkway using non-treated lumber in place. Replace existing 6x33 elevated timber walkway by reducing to a 4x36 using non-treated lumber. Install a 4-pile boat lift alongside. Piles to be non-treated lumber. Replace existing 3x16 ramp, 6x20 float.
So,
You'll check to make sure that this isn't a restricted creek for boat lifts, right? This
Yes.
is allowable, because some of our creeks are restricted.
Yes.
This
and
one's
we went
acceptable.
through this one last work session. He had to move the float back to 2.5 feet of water, and that's what you guys discussed,
Right.
and that's
Yep.
what he did. So,
And you did the due diligence on it's acceptable area, right? It's not restricted, so it meets the tests at this point in time. We've spent a lot of time on this.
Good.
Fine with it.
Yeah, let's move ahead then.
Did exactly what we asked them to do.
We're advancing that, Scott?
Yes.
Ed, do we have to go back to your first one?
We'll take that at the end.
Oh,
when Jim isn't here yet, he's,
Okay.
Yeah.
the owner
It's fine.
wants to be here. He said he can't be here until 3:30 or 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So
What,
hold on.
again, what's he waiting for?
He's for
Paoli.
17 Huntington Lane. If you want to
Okay.
bring him up.
That's mine, if you don't mind,
No,
but
I don't mind.
Yeah.
that's, okay.
He's waiting
So,
long enough.
That's awesome.
Lilia,
Southhold trustees with like 7 meetings tonight.
Lucky you.
How am I gonna get around?
so this is Lillian
Just
Paoli.
state your name and...
Sure, Jeffrey Patanja.
You want to describe it, Mr. Patanja?
Sure. The project is a replacement of a previous dock that was destroyed during some storms several years ago. Went through several revisions to the proposed plans. I actually do have a BEC permit for the same plans that's been submitted before you, so it's reviewed by them. Also have New York State Department of State permit, and just sent in some revisions to Army Corps of Engineers, but they should be forthcoming pretty soon with a permit. Entire project is a total length of 114 foot, fixed pier, 4 foot wide, leading to an aluminum 30-inch wide by 14-foot ramp, down to a 6 by 20 float. All of the timber is going to be untreated, probably green heart or oak or something similar. And the entire deck is going to be a through-flow decking. And the location of the proposed float, we have 30 inches of water to low tide at all times, which protects the bottom, and everything's really in accordance with DEC requirements. And we have more than enough length for, separation between adjacent docks. And a little point of knowledge for this is I'm just having water depth survey done at the neighboring property, one house to the west. So he's coming in for an application for the same thing. It's a destroyed dock that was originally there, wants to replace it in kind. So once I get my water depth, my survey was there actually today, doing the water depth survey on that one.
And one of the modifications that we made was that the up and over steps.
Up and over steps, yes, were added to it.
Um,
And I'm not seeing
I do
that
have
on
a
this
quick
plan.
question. You said there's 30 inches of water at mean low water. I'm looking at the survey here, and I only see 1.39 and to 2.1 on the survey, and then you have, is this dock going to be chalked or something?
No, if you look at, are you looking at the end of the fixed pier? You have to, that's where the fixed, if you go out beyond that, the 2.11 is under the ramp, and then if you look under the floating dock, it's 2.98.
You may have,
Yeah, what's the latest revision? I have a lot of revision dates on this one.
No,
I'm
it's,
looking at,
there's only 1.9 with it, 1.3, 1.9, and 2.7 with it, and 2.11 where the float is. I don't know,
which date you have on the bottom of that?
6/18.
What is that?
This is the date on-
I'm looking at 5/8/19, so I have an older one.
No, that's a newer one. That's the
This is
most,
April 18th, 2005.
Oh, man,
2000 and what?
2005. The latest I have is 7/23.
You see
Actually,
this?
I'm looking at an old one myself.
This was stamped in July 2nd,
Oh, July.
2019.
All right,
That's
yeah.
when it was stamped in, but this is,
Most recent one I sent you was on July 23rd.
that's the one you should have.
This one was
Yeah.
surveyed, it was April 18th, 2005.
that's what it says.
No, that's when that's when the
So,
survey was done.
so,
If you look down in my title block all the way in the lower right-hand corner, 7/23/19.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7/23/19.
Oh.
Oh, you know what? The proposal changed. I was looking at an old one. Yes, proposal changed. Now, the proposed dock, and I don't recall where that came from as far as why that changed to a fixed dock. It might have been a pier length.
No, I think it was because it wasn't.
There was no water there.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I,
Well, they wouldn't
Should
let us
all
go
be
out
in
that
that.
far, that's right. Yes, my DEC permit is
for,
for a 96-foot-long dock with 4 piles holding it off with chocks.
Right,
Yes.
Does your cover sheet match?
Yes, there were multiple revisions, and the cover sheet is with 4 10-inch diameter piles, yes.
So what do you?
My
have?
mistake.
Is that-
Yes.
I don't have that. I have project includes construction of 4 by 96 long fixed pier, aluminum ramp, and 20-foot floating dock supported by 4-inch
Yep.
piles.
Mhm.
Fixed dock to have through flow decking.
Floating dock and ramp will remove seasonally and stored upland location, landward of mean high water and not within wetlands. Up and over steps to be installed on both sides of the pier to allow unrestricted access over pier. And that should be signed and dated by me on 7/23/19.
it is.
That makes sense now. I was looking at old plan.
So this is the one that we're talking about now?
Yes, this is the latest.
Do you have the,
That's the,
Does that cover sheet match that plan?
If they're both, they should both be dated 7/23/19 on the lower right-hand corner. That would
just took
match,
them.
yes.
yes,
Yes, so that's the latest.
96,
96 feet with up and over steps.
yeah, but there's no way you're gonna get any water there for a float. There's not even a foot and a half of water on the inshore end, and only 2 feet on the offshore. What was the original permit for there? Just a catwalk, right? No float?
I don't
Do you
know.
have it? Do we have it?
I don't have those records.
Yeah.
Because there's no
What
water
did we
here.
ask for last, Ann?
what did we ask
We
for?
should have an email in there, what we asked for.
As far as from me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was a bunch of,
There-
we asked for
there's the
revisions,
water
a bunch of
right?
that. We had like 3 or 4
1
revisions.
foot, 1.5, 2. So there's not,
Right, at mean low, now these are referenced to mean low water, which is a requirement by New York State DEC, which I'm sure you're well aware of. So a mean low water elevation references the lowest possible at any time. So it's not gonna be a normal mean low water, this is during a seasonal or a storm.
that's not accurate either. I've seen this whole place dry, so.
Really? Okay. So that's the purpose of the flow, of the chalking, which is a typical approvable item on the DEC requirements, to maintain so that the chocks are cross braces, which hold the float off of the
Yeah,
bottom.
You have the DEC permit? Yeah.
Yeah, you should have, you can see on mine, yeah.
I'll get it, I'll get
Yeah.
it.
But it
Just
doesn't,
just remind me.
it, on the cover sheet, it doesn't say anything, a floating dock and ramp will be removed seasonally and stored upland location,
What's the date on that?
7/23. It doesn't say anything about chalking anything. Fixed
Well,
dock.
But this appears to be, is this chocks here?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Appears
asking.
to be chocks on the
Yeah.
drawings.
Yeah, but it's not on the cover
it
sheet.
doesn't-
Well, it says it's supported with 4 piles. I made all the revisions that you requested by email to make. So every,
Fixed dock, through flow decking, entire surface, floating dock and ramp will be removed. Yeah, it'll be supported by 4 10-inch piles, but it doesn't say that it's gonna be chalked. I mean,
The DEC permit says that 14-foot gangway and a 6-foot by 20-foot float chocked a minimum of 30 inches above the bottom.
that's what this should read. If you-
That's what the DEC
That's what this,
permit reads.
our application should read,
Okay.
correct? Because it doesn't here.
It's got to match.
Because I noticed, I looked at the water depths are not
Right.
what we need, but I'm looking at this part over here and I see, the chocks on the poles. That's why,
Okay.
and it says 30 inches minimum at all times. So that means even at a low tide, there'll be a foot and a half of water, foot and a half of airspace
Correct.
between the dock and,
Which is typical for these chopped installations.
yes.
So we need to change the cover sheet
That's easy.
and the plans so
Well, the
that.
plans are correct. What do you want to change on the plans?
Does it say on the plans,
No,
Chuck?
it shows,
Shows
proposed.
minimum 30 inches at all
Cross
times.
space to hold 30 inches, yes. See the, yeah, right there, that part right
Right.
there?
Yes.
Those are cross braces
Okay.
to hold it up.
Right, and you do understand that our permit is more restrictive in terms of the wood preservatives that are allowable than these.
Absolutely. Yes. Well aware of it.
And you do realize why this dock got destroyed here, right?
No
Because of
idea.
the ice that comes?
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's probably the worst place in the town for ice.
Oh, wow, okay.
So no matter what you do there,
It's gonna get destroyed?
it'll get destroyed.
Yeah, well, are they, thank you, are they, and just even for the client next door, are they permissible to install bubblers or
Yes.
or fans or what have you?
Problem
But
with,
you gotta have water. If you have no water,
Not
Yeah.
gonna work.
Right,
what I've been
that's what,
watching them do, they take PVC
pipe over, slides up and down, yeah,
and it works.
yeah,
yeah, but I've seen that area was completely dry.
okay,
So just FYI.
right, okay.
But I would definitely make the ramp and float seasonal.
Yep, that's what we
And
have.
the pilings that the dock is attached to, the float, should be tied off to an upland
In
point.
case they get pulled.
If they get pulled up, then you can just retrieve them.
I always recommend also on top of that is butt down. If they do have a taper to them, drive them butt down so the ice
It's
slides straight
supposed
up.
to be.
Yeah,
But if you take the slider out, take some PVC slider out over,
Yeah.
make sure it's at least 5 foot out of the ground,
yep,
and you're good to go.
yeah, yeah. I
One
would-
of my clients, he takes them, he's got a cable on it, he pulls them out of the water, so the float rides right next to him
Oh, okay.
in the summertime, so it works.
Yeah, I do a lot of permits out in Southold area, and on Skunk Lane heading into Nassau Point and Cutchogue, they get a lot of ice back up in there, and you could see pier after pier after pier, 20 feet in the air after
Yeah.
a storm, after the winter.
Right, so we need to revise.
Cover sheet, yep, that states that it's going to be chucked, so it's 30 inches above.
Okay, so that's,
And James, if that comes in by tomorrow,
That's up to you guys.
Yeah, it should be in by 4 o'clock tomorrow. That way you can put it into the package and make sure that it's all ready for Monday's meeting.
is that okay, Lisa?
Yeah, it gives us enough time tomorrow by 4. Mm-hmm. All right, so we're advancing that pending receipt of a revised cover sheet?
Yep, sorry.
yeah, no problem. I can take care of that. That's easy enough.
Email it to me.
You have a thing, or you want to write down?
You should have my email, right?
Scott.
James. Perrier.
James, yes. That's easy.
Great, thank you.
All set? That's all good? So-
Yep.
Perfect.
It's got to satisfy his paperwork requirement.
All right. He's the guy I gotta talk to.
Yep.
All right, thank you for taking me in. Appreciate it. It's nice meeting you guys.
Yep.
Take care.
Take care.
Lisa, do you have anything with Bruce?
Don't let that get out.
18 Rosewood.
BRYDAV LLC.
19 Rosewood?
Yes.
Sure.
Lisa, just state your name for the record,
Lisa
please.
Poyer, Poyer, Computer
you.
Science.
Thank you.
Go ahead, I'll let you.
Okay. The application is for a proposed catwalk down to a fixed pier catwalk. There's no float. There's just a scrivener's error on one of the plans, so I had new plans printed.
Okay, thank you.
Give them to Lisa, let us
Stamp.
know.
No stamp.
Like, you need all of them?
Yeah, no stamp.
Whole bunch here.
There you go.
So this is a unique property. There's history here with Marty Shea and doing upland development. There's a large wetland pocket on the property. In fact, half of the property is wetlands. It's wooded in that area. There's only a small stand of Phragmites immediately along the water edge.
This is for Bruce. It's the latest updated, I guess.
That's it, right?
There was just a notation mark that we just corrected.
Thank you. James?
I think the application package had photographs as well. I don't know if you need more.
There you go.
We're going to put it.
But it's a small ramp up, which is basically a level ramp because the ground falls away, leading to a 4-foot by 67-foot catwalk, which is elevated 3 feet above grade. Then you hit the actual wetland line, which is, I said, wetlands are about half the property. And you have a 4-foot by 172-foot elevated catwalk at 4.5 feet above grade, which leads to a small little ramp down, leading you out to your jurisdiction portion, which is everything below the apparent high water line, which is basically a 4-foot by 50-foot overall catwalk length. There's a small dinghy sling at the end. It's on Hayground Cove, which is an arm of, obviously, Mecox Bay.
Since the numbers are so small and minute, what is that number that's at the end of,
The pier,
yes,
minus 2.6.
minus 2.6?
Yes.
Okay.
It's also up there. I can.
Oh, that's a little bit better. Huh. And this is all going to be non-treated,
Untreated, yes, everything.
flow-through decking?
Yes, the entire section.
Okay.
I have copies of the Department of State letter of permission, as well as copies of the DEC permit. And I also just received an email confirmation from the Army Corps saying that they've approved it. They're going to be issuing the permit within the next few days.
Now, the upland portion where it's Marty's, there's covenants and restrictions, and what's,
His original wetland permit for the upland improvements did allow for a 4-foot wide path/catwalk through the
Okay.
wetland section.
That's the answer to the
And
question.
they're actually discussing it tonight at the Conservation
Okay.
Board. And I have a copy of their preliminary report that recommends approval of this.
Okay.
So long as we agreed to previously stake the location through the wetland area so that Marty could go out and inspect it to make sure we're not.
We were thinking about advancing it with a special condition that this has got to be received before we issue the permit on Monday.
okay.
I have the preliminary advisory report. Is that sufficient enough to make it a condition upon?
Well, you got the condition already,
I have the.
so whenever you get the board's approval,
Okay,
just send a copy to James.
okay.
Yeah, that way on
then you'll issue
Monday,
yours.
on Monday we can, well, Monday's the meeting, so
Right.
if we have it, then we don't have to put a condition on it since you already
Correct.
have the
So you
approval.
could-
It's not the approval, this is their
No,
advisory
but
report.
tonight's,
This is for the secret determination.
oh,
It's not the actual approval, it would be the next meeting, which would be in,
So we're gonna hold this until,
that's fine, so long as you can
We
get
don't
it.
Or
want
we
to
could- or
approve
we
a
could
dock
put
to
a-
nowheres.
right, because you never,
Right,
Do you want a ladder on there?
it's not that big of a tidal flow area, and they're fine with that one. They don't anticipate-
well, the ladder's not only for them, if somebody happens to fall in.
Well,
Just walk up
that's
on
a
the
good
shore?
question, because yeah, you're gonna have to walk up on the shore through the
Walk on the
fragm, I don't have a picture of this Phragmites and everything there, so a ladder at the end would make it, if you had a kayak or something like that, you could get in and out easy.
So I can submit one other
Yeah,
revised plan to throw the ladder on?
Please.
That's, okay,
Yeah.
we can add that,
It's not a big deal, but it's a big deal.
okay. No
It's-
problem.
As long as
It's a
it's not, it's
safety
a
thing and a
safety thing.
practicality.
They have no
Simple
issues.
safety
Yep.
ladder,
Yeah.
bolted on.
No objections.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right, so
Thank
we're going to
you.
hold that, Bruce?
yes,
And I'll submit one more set of revised plans. Do you want me to resubmit all of these approvals at the same time, or do you want them now?
no, you can spend them one time,
Okay,
be a lot easier for a paper trail.
yep.
Thank you.
Take this back.
This was yours.
You said Jim is coming at 3:30?
He is
or-
coming at 4. I think I saw people starting to gather out there.
Good.
Do you want to go see if they're here?
I think he just walked by, honestly.
Bruce has 3 more
Do
applications.
something else, Bruce.
I'm gonna put this in there.
What else you got?
1 second.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
How's the fishing tournament going?
I think okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
going
that's
good.
just that gentleman next to you.
It's
I
going
haven't
good.
had 5 seconds.
No,
to-
we've been busy.
You can turn to your side and go, okay.
We've been busy.
Yeah.
People are catching fish.
That's what they should
They're
be.
catching fish and they're raising
My
money
next-
for kids, which is good. 2 good things, catching fish and taking care of kids.
Yep.
Can't,
My next one is 24 Two Trees LLC, 24 Two Trees, Bridgehampton, Adam Miller Group. We're proposing to put a 228 elevated catwalk that includes stairs, proposed landing, as well as a ramp on a 6x4 floating dock. The catwalk will be constructed off-site and delivered in portions. 6x6 posts will be then put to the surface, light penetrated decking supported by untreated wood posts. Ladder to be installed at the end of the floating dock. We asked them to change the cover sheet and add a ladder, which they did.
That's all we asked for.
Yep,
totally compliant with the Blue Book? Stan?
yep.
So if it's compliant with the Blue Book, meets all permit issuance standards, good to advance, Bruce?
See anything?
That's, sure, let's go.
Yeah, you can mess with it, I think. Yeah, we can advance that one.
Okay.
My next one is Dale A. Edwards Revocable Trust, 4447 Noyak Road, and Consultants. This is, well, you guys gotta get bigger typewriters or something. Well, I gotta get better glasses. Construct a dock consisting of a 4x5 steps up to a 4x55 catwalk, supported by 6x6 posts, 3x12 ramp, 6x20 floating, supported by 8-inch diameter piles, 6x6 floating chalks are proposed to be bolted to the bottom of the float to ensure the float stays off the bottom at least 2.5 feet. All decking to be open grate, all wood to be untreated, shown by plans by N Consultants dated June 28, 2019. I take it this isn't yours, Jim?
No, it's in consultants.
Right, I know.
I believe we asked for the chocks.
Yep.
Last time, so they gave us the updated.
This totally fits with everything we required.
Yes, they did.
The permit.
And it goes right out to deep water, so that's good too, so. It goes right to 2.5, 3 feet water, so we're good.
Okay.
All right.
We're gonna advance this one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Got one more?
I got one more discussion item. It's not really an app. It's an old one that has become dormant. We renewed a permit for property owners in Noyak Harbor. And I'm just going over that and going down there monitoring. This is by Clam Island. There's been nothing done since they dredged it. And under this application we issued, the applicant hereby agrees to seed 2,000 worth of clams in the fall of 2018 in Noyak Creek dredged region, which hasn't been done, to my knowledge. It's also to plant grasses seaward in spring of 2019, which hasn't been done. So I want to know what the board wants to do with this.
I will give Greg Rivera a call at Cornell. I believe he was going to supply the clams for this project after the meeting, and why don't you reach out to the consultant and, you know, ask him why this hasn't been accomplished. It's been over a year, right?
Over a year. I did run into Billy Mack, and he said he's having a problem with the homeowner association. And I said, that has nothing to do with us. I said, we approved a permit that has to be followed, otherwise you're in violation. I asked him in the beginning of the
Who's
summer.
permit to?
Huh?
The permit was to the homeowners association?
Yes,
Well, they should be the first one that should be called, correct?
okay.
It's in their name.
If it doesn't meet the terms and conditions of the permit, what happens to other people that don't meet the terms and conditions?
You can pull the permit. If they need to do further dredging, then they'd have to reapply for everything.
Need to maintain consistency in our policy.
Pass it down.
Not to mention they got what they wanted.
Well, whatever the board wants to do, I just think that, the piles of sand have been there all summer. It's impeding traffic going to and from Clam Island, which is not our property. And now that summer's come and gone, basically, there's no grass been planted for a time for it to grow in before we get the fall season upon us.
Who's making the phone call?
Give me,
Who's making the phone call? Because we need to have a communication.
I'll
because things are going
call
sideways.
Greg, and if you want to call,
You want me to call the permit agent?
I know Eddie.
Who are you
you
gonna
give the
Okay.
committee a call, I'll give Cornell a call and see whether, because the clams are supposed to be planted. And they said they budgeted money for both of these portions of the project.
Well, this plan is sitting here, and you try to be fair with everybody. And, I'm not going to just ignore him when he's ignoring us.
Well, they came in here, there was a crisis, they couldn't get boats in and out there.
Right,
The channel
right.
was filling in.
Right.
And, we did a lot of work in our office, right, James, to make this permit move forward. So I think
It's a two-way street,
Yes.
okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody's got to do their part.
I'll give Greg a call after the meeting.
Okay.
So we're holding that, Bruce?
Please.
Yeah, it's an issue.
I have an application for, are you done, Bruce?
I'm done.
For Steve Malkinson, 72 Far Pond Road, Shinnecock Hills, Inner Science.
Yes, sir. Yeah. That'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
How you doing?
Mr. President, excuse me. Members of the board.
He's been called worse.
Mr. President. Everyone else is a chairman, you're a president.
All right. Thanks for holding our place for us.
We got you.
The board has heard this project a little bit prior. This is the end of Far Pond Road. Steve Malkinson bought this property. And the guy who built the house and constructed the rock revetment. This used to be Cap's Cottages when I went to college.
Could you get it
Your
off?
map's on the mic. There you go.
I made a technical mistake on it. This used to be Cap's Cottages. When it was Cap's Cottages, the college kids used to rent the cottages out. And in fact, where the rocks are now, there used to be a timber bulkhead there. And everybody went to the end of Far Pond and dug bait to go flounder fishing. That's the way it used to be. Cap's Cottages was knocked down and divided into 4 lots. The old timber bulkhead is still there, the rocks are there. The trustees approved a permit, and Dave Whalen rebuilt the rocks more recently, and they're in pretty good shape and don't need too much attention. But the end of the road has eroded quite a bit, I would say a couple hundred feet back from when I first came to Southampton to go to college. So it's kind of drastic. It's a little bit different than your...
It's up on the
Yep, there
video, it's probably almost 300 feet has been lost there.
It might be 300 feet. We used to dig bait there and go down the canal and go fishing.
Because back in the 70s, you had about 50 or 60 feet of dry beach you could drive a truck on to go duck hunting along there.
And
Now we
we could also catch flounder at that time.
Yes.
That's a long time ago. So, in any case, what we're here for is the sanitary system is 3 feet from the property line. And we met with the trustees, and we were told by the trustees to put the revetment return on the property line. We went to the engineer, we got plans drawn up, and the engineer told us to put caged rock. So it's a rock gabion, so you can stack it up, so the excavation would be very limited, and it could be done in stages, and it's set, basically each caged rock section is 3 foot by 6 foot by 1.5 foot tall, and they're set 4 inches back so that they cantilever towards the house. I believe that's the bulk of the driving forces behind the engineered plans. At the time, we made a fair amount of progress with the Board of Trustees, met with you guys a couple times. We were told to go to the Conservation Board and get informal comments, which I tried to do. Ultimately was not successful, so I filed a formal application from the Conservation Board, and we got a review document that was irresponsible and out of touch, telling us to take out all the rocks and some pretty strange recommendations. So we withdrew the application. We're coming back to the Board of Trustees asking for approval.
Just back up. That was pretty strong. They wanted you to take out all the rocks?
Take out all the rocks, put the house on pilings, and take out a lot of the sand. And what the goals were, I don't presume to know.
Dredge the pond behind it and take the dredge spoil from the pond and put it on the beach.
Dredge the pond behind it, and who owns the pond behind it?
The trustees own
Okay.
We did a dredging project with the homeowners association. We moved about 1,500 cubic yards of material. It went in front of Mr. Sedio's house. After that, we've met with the county, and they've done a couple dredging projects, and they put the dredge spoil further down the beach to the west, almost to Mr. Malcolm, just east of Mr. Malcolmson's property. Originally, all the spoil was put right by the entrance to Middle Pond, and it piled up and it piled up, and it made an unnatural berm, not good for bird nesting. So in consultation with Fish and Wildlife and Marty Shea, we pushed it to the west. That way we could get some sand down in front of Mr. Malkinson's property and try to protect the end of, Far Pond Road, which really can't be protected because there are two things that are against that. First off is Mr. Malkinson's, the way the rocks are fashioned now, the wave energy just not get reverberated back out to Shinnecock Bay. It bounces off and it goes into Far Pond. Secondly, the county does dredging for, the channel, the navigable channel, and that also has exacerbated the erosion in the whole area. So, it's a very tricky situation. Without doing something here, because of the dredging that has been done in the channel at Far Pond, as the same as the channel that is in Middle Pond on the east side, where we allowed the homeowner to put some rocks along there, not similar to this, but a little bit different, to slow the erosion process that's caused by the maintenance dredging of the navigable channel.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. When you drive down the end of Little Neck, it's on the right.
And I believe, was it you I brought down to Middle Pond, or was it Kara to show why we were going to approve that? Kara. Because I took the town attorney, because historically, we're not in favor of hardening structures, but I explained that this is not a typical beach situation where there is a man has intervened and changed the dynamics of the beach.
Okay. Now, since we got reviewed by the Conservation Board and withdrew the application, we went to the Woods Hole Group and we got a technical report drawn up which provides expert testimony on what's going to happen. Basically, if nothing happens, we're going to lose the side of the property line where the sanitary system is closest, and there's going to be flanking behind that existing rock revetment. And we discussed ways to deal with the return, and Woods Hole Group determined that there was best management practices to do the gabion. They did also talk to us about a rock mattress that would be placed in by a crane, sat down into the same kind of a hole. But basically, our plans are okay for what is needed. It's pretty carefully thought up plans. They're small rock cribs that are placed in and sat in without doing very much excavation to try to protect everything that still exists there. Part and parcel to that is we would have to return to the Conservation Board to get the sanitary system approved. But at this point, the erosion is continuing there. I have some air photos that can show you some interesting things. We drew up a technical report. One of the things that Mike Walsh and I spoke about in order to give Steve Melkinson all the information that he needs to know is the Board of Trustees have jurisdiction on this project because of the road. The road right-of-way is measured from mean high water. Mean high water is a surveyed elevation. And basically, that rock revetment and the return are in the trustees' jurisdiction because of Shinnecock Beach Road. We also do not need to go to the Conservation Board for a wetlands permit for rock revetment return because Chapter 325 provides an exclusion when I need to get a Board of Trustees permit. I do not need to go to Conservation Board and get a corresponding wetlands permit. We would have to get a wetlands permit for that, but I believe everybody probably feels pretty comfortable that upgrading a sanitary system on a piece of property like this is a good thing, especially when we're 3 feet from the property line and we have flanking erosion going to win for everybody with the property.
And what we, clearly what we do, if the recommendation was to follow up as a permit condition here and go to the Conservation Board and take care of that IA system, we would certainly do that. That's our intent. And Mr. Malkinson is all on board with that. He's here today.
Well, I mean, I'm familiar with the rock gabion in cages, the Tiana Beach Pavilion, where the bulkhead was removed on the town property. That's what they have done on that site. One of the stipulations of that permit is to keep that area covered with sand. That's why the town does random dredging projects throughout their properties on Dune Road, and they're supposed to fill those rock gabions over and keep them covered with sand. We had also done a project West Rampester Point. Are you familiar with that project? Rock gabions, and we made the person cover it with sand and put filter cloth and plant it with
I don't remember the guy's name.
But we did it with you, right?
Yeah, he was a cranky guy. He got a back problem and yelled at me a lot, but we got through the process.
It's the same wave fetch as you have in Mr. Malkinson's.
It's right next to a bulkhead. There's
Right.
rock gabion on it, and it was planted to Spartina alternate
Yeah.
flora.
By the way, I learned today that the Highway Department's been dumping sand there at the end of Far Pond Road
Yes, which
every few weeks, apparently.
Well, it's gotten more frequent because I've had a call from the Suffolk County DPW, Bill Hillman's office, wanting to know why this material is being placed there, because it's filling in the inlet.
Yeah.
Dredge.
That's
That's
going the
another
wrong
whole
way.
topic that we,
Also filling in the salt marsh.
yes.
In any case, the project has a DEC permit. We need to resolve this thing with the Board of Trustees. There's a lot of interesting things to look at when you have air photos from 1962. I won't
Did you have a permit for this exact project from the DEC?
Yeah. They issued a permit right away. The Board of Trustees has been more careful. That's fine. I understand that. The old inlet, and this is West Pond. Your dad would always call it West Pond, and Old Fort Pond used to be called East Pond, and the middle was Middle Pond. But this pond was always called West Pond, and the inlet used to be 380 feet. I have the old surveys. Used to be pretty far west from where it is today. And the town trustees' property used to be the spoil site. The material was picked up, placed there, and everybody was happy because there was a nice little dune there and it kind of held up. But the way things are going,
That's when it all started to change, is when the county did the dredging in the 70s. Prior to that.
that's hydraulic dredging.
Prior to that, it was done with an excavator or a bucket truck or whatever they used down there. Once they did that, the whole entire dynamics of that area changed.
That's Cap's Cottages, that's the old bulkhead line. And in the more recent stuff, you can see that there's Alex Gregor's sand.
Yes.
And it's filled in this salt marsh here, and that's a bad thing. Maybe one of the conditions that you should impose on the DPW or ask Steve to help out is take some of that sand and put it back here. And cover up the rock gabion and plant beach grass.
They don't want to contend with anything west of Mr. Malkison's house.
I know.
I've already, when we did the Honey Pot Pond dredging project, that was the deposition site that I tried with the DEC, Karen Grolick and George Hammerth, met with them on site, and even then, they wouldn't, go for it because it was...
George Hammerth is retired, and so is Roger
there's-
Evans.
There's no place that the spring mean high water wouldn't cover up.
No, I understand. It's a painful thing, but extending a return so that we don't get flanked here to the end of the road so that the guy can continue to have a driveway and access his property seems to me to be a pretty fair project. And if the trustees want to be careful, that we should put on the plans that we're going to maintain the sand in the general configuration that it is, and plant beach grass, and stabilize the end of the road the best we can. Clearly, just putting sand there every time it gets washed away is not a great solution.
It's the only solution that certain people would allow. That's,
We've seen it elsewhere in town as well.
now, when you go out past the road end, Mr. Mount, there's some Spartina there and, marsh. Is there any way of putting several large rocks there, just like they have at Crab Road and South Beach Road, to catch some of that material that's moving to allow the grass to grow in the intertidal area there?
I was recently doing beach shading with my son. I don't recall exactly where.
Lenape?
It's probably Lenape.
Lenape,
There's
South
rocks,
Beach? Yes.
and the spartina alternate flora is growing in the rocks.
Yes.
So if you want to have some practical input to the end of the road and place some native boulders there and plant some spartina alternate flora, that would probably be a great thing. It probably wouldn't be great if it got buried by truckloads of sand, but if we placed it carefully and tried to...
Yeah, manipulate the, I think it would work because it's all meadow bog that's underneath that.
We have done a number of these projects where somebody lived at the corner of a road on an estuary, at the end of Rose Hill Road. The guy put rocks across the end. Your father was part of it. The other guy that used to go fishing with Ted Williams, you know who I'm talking about? Bill Bennett?
Bill Bennett, yeah.
He helped arrange that deal. So the part where we would add some mitigation would probably make Steve feel better because he could relax a little bit about his driveway and losing the end of the road, because the road is a lot shorter than it used to be.
Every southwest wind and full moon, high tide, you lose about 6 or 8 inches of it.
We don't want to block DPW because I know those guys.
Yeah, they need access.
One of the operators, his son plays on travel baseball teams with my son, and they're really nice people, and they do try to accommodate local conditions. The operators are nice, they're respectful, and they care about the job that they're doing. But if we put rocks somewhere where everybody was happy about it, then I don't think the DPW...
Well, if you could take, as we move through this process, if you could take a look at just east of Crab Road, there are 2 good stands of, Spartina there, just west of Peconic Road, and in Lenape and South Beach Road, and most of those last 2 are just the glacial outcroppings of very large rocks that were left there. And in the last 20 years, they went from literally 0 grass there to the perfect living shoreline.
Yeah, we used to call that an Adirondack shoreline. I'm not really certain where that term came from, but we did some out in Georgia. There were rocks, Spartina patens, rocks, and then native grasses behind it, and they really do work.
James and I met yesterday with 4 people from DEC discussing living shorelines, because we suggested a couple options, and they're very open to that, so I think that they'll look
Yeah.
favorably
I
upon
think-
these suggestions.
I think DEC is a lot more user-friendly these days than some of the old days.
They were
They're,
very amenable,
yeah.
and Army Corps has a general permit for living shorelines that's,
I think all of that's okay. I think Mr. Malkinson's in a tough spot. I think he needs help, so we're looking for the town to try to help out a little bit. I don't think we're looking to take out veterans and put houses on pilings and,
You're looking for the town trustees.
what's that?
We're looking for the town trustees to.
Looking for the board of trustees to,
I think a good, well-thought-out project here would do Mr. Malcolmson well, as would do the trustees for future, properties. This is a really unique area, like the wave fetch basically comes all the way from the Ponquag Bridge, but 4.5 miles. And since all the islands and the sandbars have disappeared inside the inlet, the wave energy from the ocean waves literally hits his property, as does all the Shinnecock Hills. So, this is a new proposal. I haven't got a chance to look at it with James, nor has the rest of the board, so it's something I'd like to sit down and go over with our environmental analyst and, just,
we could draw up a little naturalization plan for the end of the road, recognizing that it's town property.
okay.
But planting in the town property, I don't think the town should really object. We would place some boulders where we're losing the base and the road is in the worst shape, and then we would agree to plant beach grass, and I think,
Yeah, basically from the high tide seaward is our jurisdiction there. Everything landward of that would be Alex's or the town or the, whoever manages that space.
Did the house itself get damaged in Irene or Sandy?
No,
No.
I mean, not to the best of my, no water came over the rocks. I mean, that predated my ownership, but from what the seller and the agents told me, the answer is no.
No representation, and when you applied for insurance, nothing came up from the past history of the location
No.
indicating that in Irene or Sandy it took water.
the house is in an X zone.
It's okay, so next zone.
It has a basement.
Okay.
Only reason why I know it has a basement, I met somebody else, not Steve, there when the house was for sale, to have a pre-purchase meeting, and the basement is nice and clean and dry.
Dry. Well,
Believe it or not.
Being in the next zone, I mean,
It's up in the air. This house is up in the air, and it's kind of all by itself, and
so if it's in the X zone and it didn't take water for Irene and Sandy, it seems as though,
it's pretty dry.
yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to get the
It's
rationale
the
here.
fringe around it and especially the western fringe going towards the road that's really taking the
beating.
beating.
Yeah,
Because
we have a sanitary system 3 feet from the edge. It's probably not the greatest situation. And Mr. Malkinson was pleasant enough to move to propose a IOTWS system north of the house, be further away from the water and
That's good.
That's a
better
great
spot.
thing.
you do have good elevation, but you have a lot of erosion around that elevation.
Yeah, so we'd like to work with the town on the erosion issue, but also the end of the road issue is probably pretty important to Steve because he needs to pull in there, and the driveway is nearly at the end of the road.
It is.
So you feel confident this is a good plan, the DEC's given you permit, could you give us a copy of the DEC permit for the file?
I probably did, but we can do it again.
Well, the plans that I have here, maybe, no, these are,
Ed,
these are new ones.
we can give you an updated.
I got the new ones.
because
I'm looking at the
Frankly
old-
speaking, I don't know what happened at the beginning, and
Well, there was a lot of ideas that were
It's been a
floated around, and in the last meeting that we had, I believe you were gonna go talk to the Conservation Board, because the majority of the project that you were looking to do was on town property, and now that you've moved it, back onto Mr. Malkinson's property, it's different.
we got the whole thing stacked up, 4-inch cantilever going back from the property line, so that it's not in the right-of-way at all. We would propose to put some stones there and plant some spartina alternates.
Yeah, I mean, if this moves forward, it's something that would definitely need to be covered, because there's a lot of people that walk along this beach here, and when you have the rock gabions, you have them in wire cages, and they're kind of,
It's
bad to
good.
walk near and on.
It's also good to have beach grass
Yes.
going up to the property. It will look pleasant, and it will hold the sand there better than almost anything.
Absolutely.
For instance, we did a lot of sand over there at the end of the beach to the west. And the best one that came out was Damon Giglio, and he never comes here. He built a house in Florida, then had to move to Arizona and take care of his mom. And he doesn't live here. But he had one of the contractors that we work with plant beach grass and follow it up with beach plums and bayberry and Virginia rose. And he has the best. Ted Hepp is dead. He died. But just to the east of Ted Hepp, the next one over is doing the best with their bluff out of all of the
Well,
five.
he's right next to the right-of-way that goes down to the bay.
He is.
Yeah.
So planting stuff there is also a good idea. It may not hold up for every single storm, but it holds up for a long period of time. And beach plum and northern bayberry will make roots that go 10 feet down. And only reason why I know that is during really bad erosion events, there's a ton of roots hanging out over the banks. And the banks that have the native vegetation do better than the banks that have lawn and landscape.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that after both of the Irene and Sandy and everything that I went out and inspected it. That was clear.
Makes sense.
Sandy was high. When I was flagging wetlands on the other side of Far Pond, and I was there with somebody new from the office, I was showing them how to flag wetlands, and I looked up in the trees, and you could see the rack line was about 3 or 4 feet higher than me. So I would say the rack line was 9 or 10 feet.
Well, it was right at the top of Mr. Malkinson's rocks. Some of them actually slid down. That's why Mr. Whalen had to reconfigure them.
Yeah, the rocks at this location are in pretty good shape, but you wouldn't want them to slump.
No, you wouldn't.
To protect a piece of property, you need to keep the rocks in decent shape. Rock cribbing, though, is about one of the easiest things that you could possibly do to stop the end-around erosion that you would get.
But,
It's pretty simple.
Like I said, we need, if something moves forward like this, we need to have it covered and maintained covered, so it looks aesthetically nice, too.
Okay.
That would be the key.
We'll start to work on naturalization plans.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
I think that's
We
okay.
good with that direction? Okay.
I think it helps the guy out.
So, while Mr. Durier is reviewing all of our stuff, we'll prepare some naturalization.
Okay.
Do you want him to put the St. Beach Road on the
Yes.
survey?
It's okay.
That'll be helpful.
We measured it off. We actually have a high water survey done. Some of the high water lines are depending on how much sand
Right.
Alex Greger places at the end.
Forward a copy of the DEC permit if you haven't.
I frequently,
Yeah, we'll file
probably
that right away.
at least twice a month, I drive down there and just take because I live in Hampton Bay, so I drive there. And the last time there was a pile of sand, you couldn't even drive my truck over to go on the beach. So,
Keeping access there is an important thing for the DPW, though. They need to get down to the beach to do the dredging projects.
yes, and it's needs for the public,
So
too.
we won't put rocks there at the end of the road, per se. We'll put the rocks in a place where it can hold the toe of the sand that's
Yeah.
there.
Because I don't think Alex would be in favor of putting rocks, because I discussed this already with him.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Yes. So we're going to hold that one. It's going to be a challenge. No, it is. But in my mind, I think we can make it work.
I think that's it.
Does anybody else have anything else to discuss with the board?
Maybe just to elaborate a little, James and I met with 4 people from DEC yesterday to discuss Living Shoreline project, and as I said, they were very amenable to it. We have several other projects that are either in the wings or in process as far as applications go. So we learned a lot from them yesterday or the other day. So we're looking forward to those applications coming in, and I was really glad to hear you suggest the rocks offshore a bit and the naturalization.
Yeah, but it was actually today I was clamming by Jackson's Marina, and I'm looking at the two stands of grass, and you can't even see the rocks there, and the grass is about 4 feet high. So in the last 20 years, it's gone from maybe 10 square feet to hundreds and hundreds of square feet. So if you can keep the sediment from moving around too much, you can really grow some nice shorelines.
So anything you want to add, James?
No, I think it was a great meeting for that project that we had discussed at the last work session.
Yeah.
You know, they added a couple of things that we didn't really have a grasp on yet because it's the first of many, I presume, for
Yeah.
Living Shoreline. So it's a good direction. It's the right direction.
Well, that particular area, you could probably incorporate some oysters and stuff in, because the water, it stays wet probably 60% of the
They
Yeah, they're
are
gonna look into
concerned,
it.
they're concerned about the harvesting of oysters, if they were there, and the consumption of them,
It's
even
uncertain.
though
Yeah.
that is, so
Yeah.
they
It's a
suggested,
certified area.
it is a certified area, but they suggested ribbed mussels.
God bless
They
you.
said there's not presently a source to purchase ribbed mussels for planting like this, but that Cornell has that in the works.
Yeah.
So,
There used to be tons of them out there in the waterway. Now they got decimated. And
No, they're back.
They're coming back, but in a lot of areas where I saw them, very heavy, I don't see them now.
Yeah, Western Shinnecock Bay is full of them again. A lot of the baymen used to harvest them for flounder bait.
That's right.
And now that we don't have flounders, so they don't get harvested. And I think the harvesting would actually allow them to reproduce, and, you know, it was one of the symbiotic relationships between the fishermen and the mussels. They would be there every year, and since they stopped harvesting, maybe more so, probably the brown tide has gotten to them, but they did make a rebound in Western Shinnecock Bay around Dockers and some of the other marshes. I've seen them when I'm bait fishing up there, so they're back, but not to the historic levels yet. But they do make a nice root system, so, all right.
I do have one thing. I sent you guys an email. They're up again to do the survey for the Sagaponack to Bridge, you know, the restoration, the dune restoration, so they're gonna go do their surveying.
Yes,
Coastal science.
yes.
So if you do, you know, get any questions of what they're doing the annual survey of from the water up to the dune. There is no closures for bird windows, so they don't need me down there. But they will have, you know, a little, not ATV, but a little Polaris that they bring, and then they do the surveying.
Are they gonna go by boat and do
They
it?
do the boat ones, and they're in touch with parks.
Yeah, they should be
And-
able to acquire a free launching sticker?
Yeah, I believe they launch at Ponquag.
Yes.
They don't get bothered every year.
Okay.
They shouldn't be.
Yes,
And they
we're just
also-
making sure.
They also leave the boat at Flying Point parking lot as well when they
Okay.
do the other land surveying. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up if anybody asks what they're doing, because sometimes in the morning, what they do is come up real close to the shore and then go back out, and they, you know, people get worried that they're going to hit people or something
Yeah.
like that, but
They're doing the survey.
they're pretty, yeah, they're doing a survey essentially.
Okay.
Yes. I just want to add, you got some more?
Nope, that's it.
Just want to add, we're in the budget phase right now. Lisa and I worked on the budget. I've been back and forth with the comptroller's office. Spoke to Constable Franks about marine maintenance needs as well. Had another discussion before I came into this meeting, just making sure the numbers are the proper numbers for the, you know, amount of money that we, you know, pay back to the town for, you know, salary contributions and whatnot. So we're working on the back and forth and ironing that. If anybody has any questions or any input, to call me so we could work that into the process. Obviously, we're going to have a public hearing on it, so we'll be able to discuss it then as well. But if you do have something ahead of that, give me a call, and then we'll go over it, and then we'll work it in. There's been a lot of back and forth. Okay?
Are they preparing to purchase some more speed buoys? The 5 mile an hour?
They've put in the budget, we've tripled the budget for things that they need, whether it be chain and shackles and what they need for buoys. They were requesting a double. In anticipation of exactly what you're talking about, I suggested a triple, because that is very important. So we did factor that in already.
Okay.
But if there's anything else that you think, in the prior year, we did leave a budget line in the contingency side, and we had to make some transfers there. During this year, we're going to try and do the same. Obviously, that number has ticked down, and the number that we have to contribute back to the town has ticked up. So, we're working through the process. Like I said, we will have a public hearing, but if there's anything that is on your mind ahead of that, since I'm working on this regularly, and Lisa and I spend a lot of time on it, Brandy as well, get a hold of me. I'd be more than happy to go over it with you, and then whatever the suggestions are, we can do ahead of the public hearing. That way we're most productive.
I do have one question about attorneys, being that Martha Reichert, our attorney, has left for, work in the private sector. We're going to have Joe fill in for a couple of meetings. Has the town, or what is the intentions of the town giving us funding for between now and the year? And then
The answer to your question is there's a resolution that's being processed, and what we're going to do is there's going to be, I think, a $10,000 line in that coming from the town, coming to the trustees, and then that is going to require Joe to account for and bill on that line for all of the work that would normally be done by Martha, by Kara, by the town attorney's office, and that's going to come out of that, and the comptroller is going to watch that, and then as it needs to be replenished, it's going to be replenished. So they've come to the understanding that, whatever it is that the responsibilities were of the town attorney, they're going to have to move that, from their funds to the trustees, and then we will handle it. It's going to require an additional resolution that's going to clarify that, and then for the things that Joe is working as special counsel for the trustees, he's going to put in for special counsel of the trustees, and that's going to obviously be coming out of enterprise revenues, okay? And then this other stuff is going to be accounted for separately. So that's been sorted out, and there will be official resolutions indicating that as well. Okay, so that's all working out.
And one other thing, myself and Lisa are going to meet with Jim Burke to try to resolve Joe's ability to get documents he needs, and how the town is going to view him as a special outside counsel. I know they do have outside counsel, with NYMER and stuff like that. So myself and Lisa are going to sit down with Mr. Burke and try to figure out a plan moving forward, how Joe can get the material he needs. He's not a town worker, so he doesn't have the ability to access town documents. So it's something, Joe, that we're going to have to work out.
Yeah.
It's new for me. I haven't done this before. I had a discussion with Lisa. So right now, everything that you need, any questions that you need, you should probably put towards Lisa, because she's the office manager, and she'll disseminate it out to the rest of the board.
Yeah.
That way, everybody knows what's going on with you, and that way, if one of us can meet with Len or GIS to get you access to something, you're doing a project, we could work that through.
One of the issues is that Martha apparently put a lot of stuff within her emails that she had put folders on, I believe topical folders of stuff that I could conceivably be working on. If Lisa even has some sort of access maybe to Martha's emails, that'll be helpful to me.
I do not have access.
I said if they were to
Yeah.
give you, if
Yeah,
they were to give you.
I do not have it, no.
Since, I understand the town with the security risk, I'm not a town employee, whatever. But apparently there is information in Martha's emails that Martha had wanted, me to be able to have access to in some manner, shape, or form. How I get there, I don't care.
Well, Lisa and I are going to meet with Jim. And
We are.
We're,
Yes.
because this is my first time dealing with this.
I think all of us are.
So-
Well, yeah.
And moving forward, we've had some questions on the board, special counsel or outside counsel for the trustees versus town council. It's very difficult because town can just use the town stuff and outside can't use the town stuff. This is new ground for us. So
Can I
we're
tell
gonna
you
work
what this
through it.
has brought to light from my view and from my conversations with people trying to work through this difficulty? Is that it would have been and will be, hopefully, a lot cleaner if the trustees had their tax line. And then we could have had the discussion about what the needs are of the trustees, full-time attorney, paralegal, just like a village. And then that money could have transferred from the
Yeah.
town transparently to that line, and then the trustees could have gone out and hired non-conflicted counsel, and that would have cleaned this all up, and we wouldn't be in this
Right.
precarious, conflicted limbo situation that we're in right now. And everybody's realizing that now?
Yeah.
And through my conversations with people, trying to sort through this?
Well, if you'll recall, when we had the working group meeting with the town back in the days when there was the possibility of the tax line bill advancing in Albany, they estimated that 3/4 of the time of Martha's time was spent doing trustee work. They were charging back the trustees in their budget 3/4 of her salary. So bottom line is that the money has been charged against your budget. It's there. It's just a matter of how the town wants to.
Well, and that all goes to the point
Yeah.
of transparency. But the reality is the trustees are an independent government, and just like a village is independent.
Yeah.
And reality is that we probably would need a full-time attorney and a paralegal, because I know there's a lot of extra work that's put upon the staff to provide what's needed to support
Yeah.
special counsel or what have you. So in looking at it fairly and realistically, legal counsel and legal consultation and legal, maneuver, whatever it is, it benefits everybody in the town.
Yeah.
It's got to be handled fairly,
I
and this
think-
is,
I think during that working group meeting, I think the expression of the town attorney acknowledging the fact that Martha oftentimes was in a very uncomfortable
Correct.
position because of a conflict of interest.
correct. I've called it.
She can't serve two masters.
Correct.
That's the bottom line.
I've called it a conflicted position to begin with, and the reality is that we're trustees of a trust. And one of the primary responsibilities of a trustee is to assure the trust that you have proper, non-biased legal counsel.
Exactly.
Non-conflicted. And it's hard to do that under that scenario. But if you fix the problem, you fix the problem.
Agreed.
Scott, what's it,
Oh, go ahead.
what's it look like, and are we trying to plan to, bring the employees up to where they should be, or employee?
Bruce, we're trying to bring employees where they could be. I just had a little session with the council before I came in, and I'll tell you that the restricted road fund looks like it's down to about $130,000 right now. So, yes.
That, way to go.
Well, trucks and this and that, and the things projects that we did,
Yeah,
drainage.
but we didn't put no money on the truck.
No, we had to move $40,000 from
Right.
one spot, but that has to come out of that balance.
But I thought that come out a while ago.
No.
Well, either way about it, there's one area in there, there's one budget line, which I don't have a clue what it's about, but that's all right, but,
Which budget line is that?
snowplow money.
That's just, all he did was, that's still part of restricted road.
It is.
So that's still part
So
of
the-
restricted road.
So you're 130 plus the 50 is
No,
180?
no, that's included in the 50. That is not like a thing that replenishes and is there. That was just of that, like, what do you guys think that you're gonna have to, and it got assigned to, all right, it's gonna be for, we didn't know whether you were gonna need snow plows, sanders, this broke, that broke, we didn't know, so it's just there. But it all falls under restricted roads. So the reality is that, I had a meeting with the comptroller and the supervisor. They view it as people's private driveways. There needs to be a revenue source to offset the appropriate expense, otherwise it's not fair to the rest of the taxpayers and the freeholders. So they're well on their way to figuring out, and I've spoken to many of the homeowners that live on these roads, and they're in favor of wanting to have safe roads and maintain roads. It greatly affects their property values. It greatly affects their ability to get favorable mortgage rates and whatnot. So it's a problem that needs to be solved. The town doesn't want them, right? There has to be an offer and acceptance. So if we're going to be stuck with having to maintain these roads, then I think the logical step is the step we've taken in working with the GIS folks.
And Joe.
And Joe, doing the research, and the comptroller's office, and all of us, figuring this out, how this becomes a sustainable process, because a lot of that maintenance staff, the 3.5 guys, a good chunk of it is on those roads. It has to be assessed fairly, all this work, and I think that you have a lot of very talented people that involved in this process now, and from the phone calls that I've gotten from people that live on these roads, those folks want to help be part of the process so that it's good, fair, sustainable. It greatly affects their quality of life, public safety, property values, their finances. It's important. So we are working on this. It's not going to take 5 years to solve this problem. We will be able to solve this problem very quickly, but it's not prudent for us to move in directions and wait until you see that there's a possibility that our cost factor going back to the town is going to be higher, much higher than it was last year, okay? We're still boiling this down right now. And again, all of this was getting shifted over to the tax line, which would have made it a heck of a lot easier to maneuver when you're spreading things out over the entire tax base of the entire town, versus we're trying to do it at a $30 fees. It's a different story, okay? These things that happen, like the Sagaponic plan and the Mecox plan, that helps because it lessens some of our burden. But again, we've taken on almost $1 million in debt service so we could fix things that our maintenance crew got to the point of saying, folks, we can't Band-Aid it anymore. We can't duct tape it anymore. You need to go out for a capital project and fix this. We got that. We got that message, and we moved in that direction. So, I spent a lot of time, in this, and that's why I say to you all, if you have a question, you can just call me on the phone, send me whatever. And I'm working with Lenny Marchese, I'm working with Dorothy, I'm working with everybody in that office, Lisa. Everybody's communicating, everybody understands what we need to do, and we're doing the best we can. So, call me.
Two things. Our public hearing for Mecox Bay Management Plan goes forward on Monday?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And on the website, under form plans and, James, what's it under on the website?
Studies, town
Studies and plans. It's available?
Yes.
So that it can be perused prior to the public hearing?
I've texted that out.
And it's also,
There's a minor, I need to speak with James, I think before Martha left, she changed, was it the acknowledgement page, which may differ from what's on the website. I need to have that question clarified.
Okay.
Before they become bound, because CRC is going to bind a certain number of copies for the board and also make copies available for the public, and I need to clarify that last piece of the puzzle before I can tell them to go ahead with the printing project.
will those written copies be available to the public before Monday?
I'm going to try, Ann. I need to get that question
I
answered.
went on there yesterday.
It's on the
It's there, you
website,
can
but
look
there
at it.
is
I
a
went on it.
slight discrepancy, I guess, with an acknowledgement page at the very end.
But the mechanics of the plan.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
there's no substantive
No.
changes. It's just a minor.
There was a request
You and I
made
need
to
to
do something with
work on
the
that.
acknowledgements, and that's.
Right, that's what was changed at the last, and in fact, I just was looking at my email, I have to clarify that.
But the plan itself is a solid.
The
Correct.
substantive issues
Right.
and things dealt with haven't changed at all.
Correct.
Right, okay.
I've been receiving emails about the plan, very positive from the homeowners who live around Mecox. I've been forwarding them to
Yes,
Lisa.
I did
I
receive.
think I forwarded them to you guys too.
Yeah.
So maybe she can forward them to all, but compile a list so you know who's.
I've received a lot of positive commentary as well on this as well. So I think we're moving in the right direction here. You know, it's been a long time coming.
And we're going to have a meeting with Marty tomorrow
Yes, we are.
and discuss some of the issues that,
Excuse me?
I said, should I be there?
It's up to Ed and Scott, I don't know.
well, I was going to segue into that. I mean, my next segue is.
Normally, we would bring our town attorney into
Yes.
certain meetings, so.
It's 11 o'clock tomorrow, Joe.
Okay.
I was going to tell you about that. And also, I had a document sent to Stephen Stern. He's our outside counsel that's been handling a few of the cases. I figured a fresh set of eyes to look at it would be good. So I forwarded it to him just for him to give a quick review of it as from his legal perspective, being that he's working on the tolling agreement with 3 of the homeowners down by Mecox.
Good idea, yeah.
You know, I got one more thing while we're on the subject. We did discuss that, since we did open that additional beach for the folks in the town, and it really went well, that we were gonna leave that, right? And that we have opened up
Yes.
more drive-on beach. So was somebody supposed to do a resolution to change that? To memorialize that?
We never did we just opened it. The only drop-dead date of change would be for Agawam. If the Plover area had opened up, that would be the Agawam parking.
You mean Cold Spring?
And Cold Spring, we were just.
Right,
that
so
what
what I'm
you're
saying is that
referring
that's
to?
worked out well. A lot of people have used that and enjoyed that.
Yes.
And it was a cry for us to open up more beach access for that activity, and we did, and people really enjoyed that. Has it been memorialized, is what I'm saying.
It's the first time hearing of it, but
I don't
I'm
think
not
it's
aware
been
of anything like
discussed.
that.
Well, I mean, we
So-
put a resolution on to open it, but other than that, we were not going to close it.
Okay, so, but it should be perhaps memorialized in our blue book, so I think that an action, you know, whatever, if you're our town attorney, Martha,
Yeah.
Karen,
You're
whatever,
Martha.
Joe,
Yeah.
that should be done, because it worked, there was a
Yes.
lot of vehicles, people really enjoyed that drive.
I'll review the
up.
resolutions that you have, and if we have a need of one, I'll try to put one on for
I
Monday.
think you should do that, because
James and I can
I
take a
think
look
we
at
should
the
give
resolution.
them the original resolution to see how it was worded, and with conversation with the Bay Constables and the people from the public.
It went well.
They're very happy with it.
it went
so-
well. So people were asking for this, we've provided this, it needs to be memorialized in that blue book.
But, hold on. Was there not pushback from the residents of Cold Spring?
No, I didn't get any.
Okay.
I haven't heard any negative at all. Zero.
Okay.
No,
I heard there was a lot of people really enjoyed it with their families.
Those are the
And I-
ones who used
And
it,
it took
yes,
a lot of
yes.
pressure off of other areas.
get it. I
And there
get
was a
it.
call from, the Southampton Association for Beach Access and other people asking and pleading with the trustees to open another drive-on beach to relieve pressure, and we did, and it went well.
All I'm saying is, before we change it in the blue book, let's do a public hearing, please. I think that's prudent.
you can, but I thought we already did it.
We did this, I thought, when we took the action on what we did.
But we did it on a temporary basis.
But I understand that. What I'm saying is I want to review that resolution, because that's
Yeah.
worked out well, and that's what people in this town were calling for.
Yes.
But I think
Great.
Agawam worked out well too for the surfers. They've been able to park there, they never parked there before.
I just have one additional, if everybody's finished.
Yeah.
In conjunction with the Comptroller's Office, developed a procedures manual for the office, which is going to include instructions and govern for preparation of pretty much every permit that we issue out of the trustee's office, definition of work duties for each employee in the office. It's going to delineate for the counter staff, that they're responsible for the monies that they take in and give out to the public. Establishment, everything from, they have to give notice if they're going to be, out, because it causes major disruption with the entire staff when we have a counter person who's out. So that's been submitted, and we're just waiting for Len's review. And we will have each and every employee in the office will have to read it and acknowledge, probably sign it, including myself. So I think this will go a long way towards what people, what we expect of them.
Yep.
As far as time and attendance, as far as the intake of money, as far as office procedures. If someone's out sick, then they can refer to that manual, how to process a waterfowl permit or process a mooring permit, and I think it will be very helpful.
Yes, so
We
do I.
kind of modeled it after Parks and Recreation, because they have a lot of seasonal part-time staff, and it works very well for them, and there's a large number of part-time employees there, so it has worked very well for them, so.
Great.
I'll let you know when I get the final word.
All right. Thank you, Lisa.
Yep, okay.
I just have one last thing. In light of Martha leaving, How does that affect, or does that affect anything with Rose Hill Road? It's whomever takes over just carries on with that, but I know that's out of our hands. but-
Rose Hill Road is handled by outside counsel.
Castle?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've already received communication from outside counsel advising me of adjourn date on a motion and stuff, so
Okay,
I'll keep a monitor on it. And if there's anything significant, I'll get an email out to everybody.
okay.
Yes, Steven Stearns, and Sokoloff and Stearns, one of his attorneys in that law office is handling it. So I would hear from him, and if me or Joe, whoever hears, I will give it to Lisa, and she can give it out to the rest of the board.
There was a request on the motion to dismiss that was filed by Stephen Stern's office by the plaintiffs to have until October 6th to respond to the motion, which he granted.
Okay.
Pro forma.
All right, great, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Nobody else has anything like to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.